Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen, dressed down a little bit. I know I haven't been dressing up recently, but the t-shirts I've been wearing have kind of like special meaning. And this is a t-shirt for the IDF. And I'm wearing this to show support for what's going on in Israel right now. Israel is waging a war for its existence, which basically can describe just about every war we wage. Um, Israel was attacked about a year and a half ago by a group of terrorists. They were armed. They came as a surprise attack. They were not wearing military uniforms. They did not attack soldiers. They attacked civilians. They made unspeakable crimes. They went back to their enclave. They hid behind civilians. They hid in the terror tunnels that they've been building for the last 20 years or so since Hamas took over Gaza. And yet we get vilified. Now, some people may think that that's a political statement. And if that's so, that's fine. You're certainly entitled to your beliefs. I look at it as an issue of morality. Israel was attacked because they are Israel. And we can go into the whole legacy. We can go into the whole history. I'm not going to do that. I will let you decide how you want to look at the situation. You pretty much know where I stand with it. I'm very, very supportive, very a staunch advocate of Israel and Judaism. And that's the way it is. I assume because you're watching this, you kind of agree with me. And maybe you don't. And that's okay. Maybe it's not okay. If you don't like Netanyahu, okay, we can discuss that. I'm not going to say whether I like him or I don't. To me, that's politics. We can discuss the current administration of this country. I will listen. I will only say that they seem to be supporting Israel, and that's good. And that's really all I'm going to say, because I don't discuss politics. To me, this is something that transcends politics. It's not politics. It's an idea of a people, my people, the Jews, our people, that are being targeted. And that's my stance. So I know I don't talk this way when I do these recordings. But, after a while, I just feel I need to do it, especially since this week's portion, Matot, Masei, it's a double portion, kind of goes along. Think about this. It kind of goes along with what's going on today. Now, those of you that have listened to me, those of you for whom I've served as a rabbi, those of you that are watching my vlogs, my video blogs, you kind of know that one of my big things is relevance of the Torah to today. Now, in our portion, and in our triennial portion, it focuses on the second of the two parshas, which is Masei, which means the travels. And God specifically, and this is how it opens up, God specifically tells Moses that you are to go conquer the land, the Canaan, as it was known back then. It is to us a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a land whose bounty is promised if you work it with a certain, let's face it, morality, which the current inhabitants are not doing. And we'll get to that in a second. And dispossess and take out those people. Now, I have yet to ever hear somebody sit there, look me in the eye and say, that doesn't sound very ethical or moral. Because a lot of times people will treat the Torah as something that happened 3,000 years ago and only 3,000 years ago, and it's just kind of a history. It's not. At least in my opinion, it's not. If you read the commentary of the Hertz Chumash, Rabbi Joseph Hertz, who was a chief rabbi of the British Empire, in his commentary, and this was used as the prototypical Chumash of the conservative movement until it was replaced by the Eitz Chaim, which is kind of a newer version. They tried to update it, make it a little bit more on par with the Art Scroll Chumash, more of a global commentary drawing from more, growing more from different sages rather than focusing on Rabbi Hertz's commentary. But what Rabbi Hertz does is he brings in archaeological and anthropological issues that surround it. So we know from archaeological digs that the indigenous tribes, the Canaanite tribes of the time, practiced human sacrifice as part of their pagan religion. They really focused more on appeasing forces of nature, which they saw as gods, rather than respecting people. And yes, some of those offerings were children. That's what they believed. They believed that in order to appease the gods, you needed to put somebody on a fire. Now, if you look at our Torah, our commandments, you come to a commandment that says don't pass your children through Malach. Malach is really kind of the same word as Melech, which is king, but it referred to the pagan practice, that's, as some sages say, which was basically offering child sacrifices to appease the gods. Now, where they came up with is, I can't imagine where somebody would come up with that idea that you have to offer people to appease wind, too much rain, maybe an earthquake, maybe an eclipse. I don't know where they came up with that, and I don't know that anybody does. You'd have to ask those people, which of course we can't do anymore because those people are long gone. So, but this was their practices. The fact that people would even consider sacrificing a human life to make the wind stop or make it rain, where does that come from? Now, we pride ourselves on being in direct communication with divine, a divine, objective set of morality that governs our lives. So when we look at our portion, as our triennial portion, we have God instructing Moses, again, to go tell the people. Of course, Moses isn't going to do that. He's going to have Joshua do it, and he's going to have Eleazar be the high priest. And Pinchas, Eleazar's son, who is now in line to be the next Kohen Gadol, the high priest, is a battle priest, and he's the one that's going to give the blessings. It was up to conjecture whether or not Pinchas actually accompanied the warriors, the soldiers, out into battle, or whether he just gave an invocation before they went. But either way, the idea is we're basing this on morality. Think about it. We have a priest saying this is the moral high ground. Okay, we're going to wage war, but we're also going to make reparations for the lives we're about to take. We do this unwillingly, but we do it because we have to. That's the way Judaism is. God also lays out the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, of our ancient land. And it looks very similar to what it looks like today. Maybe there was a little bit more land here, a little bit less there, but it's basically the same boundaries, very similar. And it talks about how the tribes of Gad and Reuben and two of the clans of Manasseh would settle on the other side of the Jordan because the land was very rich and fertile, and it was perfect for herding cattle, which is what these tribes did. It sets up cities of refuge. Okay, again, another idea, because back then you had a blood avenger. If somebody accidentally, for whatever reason, killed one of your relatives, it was up to you to go out and avenge and kill that person in retribution. But we set up a special process that says, first, we're going to decide if it was an accidental, if how much responsibility the person who did the killing had, whether it was an intentional. If it was intentional, two witnesses were party to it. They knew the person was warned. They did it anyway. Slam dunk, life for life. If it was an accident, the person's walking around the corner holding a knife like this, and somebody stumbles into the knife and gets killed, well, it's accidental. There's a penalty for that, but it's not life for life. So again, it was up to a relative of the deceased to go off and kill that person in revenge as a vindication, a redeemer, right? But we said, no, we're going to have a process and make a decision. Now, if it was of a certain type of unintentional, then that person would basically have to retreat to a city of refuge. There were 6 of them among the Levite cities. And that person would either live out their life in safety there because they were protected, or until the current Kohen Gadol, who was supposed to pray for these things not to happen, died. Okay, so that's one moral issue that came after this. Another one is the daughters of Zelophehad. One of my favorite issues, the five daughters of this guy Zelophehad, who died of his own sins in the desert, left no sons, and these girls thought, well, Moses, we're going to lose our land. And our father had no sons to inherit, so why shouldn't we inherit? And God says, no, they speak right. Okay, well, here, the elders of the tribe of Manasseh, of whom they were a part, come in and said, well, that's not fair, because if they marry somebody outside the tribe, Manasseh loses that land. And Moses says, okay, then they're going to have to marry somebody within the tribe. They were all going out with somebody in the tribe, so it worked out fine. Okay, time's up. Y'all think about that. Leave your comments, if you will. I know some of what I said was a little controversial, but folks, we deal with reality. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for listening.